Hi Vanessa, lovely to see you today.
Hi,
And
Hilary.
thanks so much for being willing to have a chat to us about your journey as a teacher.
My pleasure.
So I'm just going to ask you to start off with, can you just tell me what your job is at the moment, what your position is or who you're working with? Not necessarily the place that you're working at, but just something a little bit about what you're doing.
So, yeah, I'm currently the team leader of the early learning program at an integrated children's service. So I manage the long day early learning program and the sessional kindergarten program, and I support the facilitated play groups, and we also have a toy library as well as other community engagements. But my role is specifically with the early childhood
Okay,
area.
so what leads you into teaching?
Teaching. So I was a mature age student, Hilary, so I had a lot of experience in early childhood before I actually completed my degree. And back when I started in early childhood, I always just, like lots of my educators today, just wanted to work with children, really loved working with children. I didn't know what that meant then because it was about providing care and love and supportive environments, but that was over 30 years ago, Hilary, and so the
that's a while
profession,
ago.
yeah. So the profession's changed. But when I first went into early childhood, I wasn't actually teaching, and along the journey, I decided that teaching was something that I could achieve. And
Hold on. Oh no, that's right. Yes.
sorry, teaching,
Sorry, I was
that's
just
all
checking
right.
the video just to
I
make
just
sure
need to make
everything
sure
was
the
fine.
technology's right.
Yes.
But along the journey, there were some inspirational teachers that I had the privilege of working with who supported me in my growth as an educator, and then supported me to actually enrol at uni and complete my bachelor, which is the best thing I've ever done.
Oh goodness. Okay.
So then I went into actually primary school teaching. Finishing my degree, I went to primary school teaching, and then came back into early childhood because I actually really love working with under
Okay.
fives.
Now
Yes.
tell us what happened there. Come back into early
Come back
childhood.
well, I mean, early years crosses, 0 to 8, but I love working with families and children in collaboration.
Yes.
And in the primary setting, that is a different model. The model is quite different. There's more of a hands-off approach, that when the children arrive for prep, it's like a passing over of the children to the educator. And I wanted a different relationship with the families and children. And also, I love the fact of, that growth between that beginning communication from 0 to 6 months old. And I really love that, seeing that and enhancing that and watching that growth. When I say go back to early childhood, I'm talking about, I love the learning and the play and the possibilities at this age group is
that's
amazing.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's not as constrained with measurable outcomes.
Interesting. So if you think back over your career, you obviously had some particular reasons why you chose to go into teaching. Now, have they changed or are they much the same?
I think they're certainly much the same, because at the foundation was making a difference in the life of the children, which sounds very cliche, but I think that was the aspiration, that actually the inspirational teachers that I had teaching me, and then later who I worked with, they made a difference in some of the children's lives that they work with. And I think fundamentally, that's still at the core of what I do, is to actually, but the difference the view of difference might be different.
Oh, okay.
So where I might have been a little bit egocentric in the beginning, now I think making a difference in children's lives is actually creating a space for them to be.
Right.
To be who they are and to belong to a space as they are, as who they are.
So in that case, do you have any sorts of theoretical frames or ways of thinking about your teaching that are particularly, well, how would you say, closely aligned to your practices?
I certainly lie within sociocultural paradigm. I believe that learning is relational, that
Yes.
relational with the environment, with the person, with the materials, with everything. And I actually find it very difficult to not see things now as a relationship.
Ah. So you say see things now. Was there a time when you perhaps had a different view or a different theoretical frame?
That the theoretical frame in the beginning of my career was very much developmental, that children move through ages and stages, and that all children, achieve the same things by, they were raising their head by 6 months old and making beginning sounds and things like that.
Yes.
So yes, I was fortunate enough to attend uni to complete my bachelor at a time of change where Rogoff and Vygotsky and the socio-cultural theorists were coming to the foreground, and was at this contemporary time where I could actually look at things and things made sense, where you would look at, everybody, when you see things developmentally, there are children that miss out, that don't actually meet that milestone, or don't, so it's really a tool of measurement. And it was very nice to have something that actually didn't measure things, that actually looked at things in a holistic way, that was based on who I am, where I come from, my historical background, my cultural context, to say this is who I am. And I actually can't look at things. I can't believe I looked at things in the traditional way, that that we sat there with scissors and had children cutting out along lines, because developing the skill of cutting was very important. But
Oh, okay. So that's made a difference to your practice too, then, has it?
Absolutely. So one of the most significant things to my practice recently was I moved to a new role.
Yes.
And in that role, I've been able to show how there's the importance of the opportunity to build relations. So I moved my office space to the centre of when I say the centre, there's a huge corridor that runs down, and in that off that corridor was a void space that had all the broken cots and the broken toys left in there. So we cleared all that out, and I've put 2 couches in there and a coffee table and toys, and there's play space set up and some kinesthetic sand, and my desk is actually down there, but it's behind the couch. I actually don't sit at my desk. And that moved me into where I could be accessible. So not only, it was interesting, the families would walk past and say, I can talk. It wasn't, can I talk to you? I can talk to you now. And yes, you can. It was quite a difference in the way they could approach me, and the way I was accessible for them. So and I try and model that through to the team, to what they're doing. That it's really, we are educating and caring for the most treasured thing in a family's life is their, they're not a thing, they're their child, and I can't express to the staff how important it is for us to be able to allow the families to build a relationship and include them in whatever way it is into their life, because we are a part of their life now.
Okay, so let's think a little bit about that. We've talked a little bit about the changing nature of teaching. Is there something that you would identify today as being very valuable for a teacher? Some sort of characteristic or disposition is there to be a successful teacher?
I really believe to be a successful teacher, you need to be able to listen with your eyes. And in fact, the Chinese character for listen is actually the symbol for ear, eye, mouth and mind together to feel it. And I think that if you have one characteristic, it is to be able to actively listen and hear what's not being said as well. So it's not just passive listening. It's actually to listen to the families, to listen to their actions, to listen to what's going on, to actually listen to the political context that's coming in and understand where that's coming from. And if we can listen and understand, then we can work within it.
Okay.
And not to just absorb things. So I think what's happened sorry, did I move out?
No.
What's happened in recent years in early childhood there's obviously been a huge myriad of change. I was reading the landscape of this changing environment.
Yes.
But there's been an awful lot of change, and people have along the way just absorbed that change and taken it on and added it on top of what they were already doing. Portfolios, I think, are a classic example of that, where everybody felt they had to do portfolios, but it was just added to the workload. And I say, let's listen to what we're being asked to do. Are we already doing it? And if not, or if we are, do we need to reframe it or manipulate it a little bit to make it fit contemporary practice? Or do we not need to do it? Or are we just doing it in a different way, and is it okay to be different? We don't ever want early childhood to be a mono, everything the same, all children going to the same. We want that diversity in it. So I think that characteristic to actually hear what's being asked of us and then interpret that and do is critical.
It's
to
critical.
what we do. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Can you talk a little bit, just quickly, around professional learning and what sort of part that's played in your development and growth over the years?
Yes. Professional learning, I think professional learning and networks are critical to your own professional growth. I do think you need to be selective about what you attend and what you're hoping to take away from things. So I went to, just recently, listen to Carla Rinaldi speak in town. And again, I came away with that same